Hello, and welcome to CLEA'S WORLD. Today, I would like to share with you more information I've received from the 25th dimension during my last BQH hypnosis session. I'll be reading from a transcript, and when I refer to Lorrayne, I'm speaking of my practitioner who's asking me questions I prepared in advance of the session. And when I speak of myself, I am talking to myself under hypnosis, which means that the answers are coming from the 25th dimension. And I apologize if you hear noise in the background. I think a motorcycle must have been a big motorcycle just went by. I live downtown St. Louis, so it gets a bit loud here sometimes. All right, so before I jump in, as always, I want to thank you so much for subscribing and liking and commenting on this video. I think we have an amazing community here, and I love reading your comments. And definitely, I love when you ask questions because this helps us all move forward and also gives me an opportunity to ask a 25th if what is going on, if it's something that I haven't already looked into myself. So I really appreciate that. All right, let's jump in. Lorrayne. The people that are working as the active, the leaders of this, they're still here. Some of them are the ones that had left already and then came back to finish stuff. And so they're still here finishing what they need to finish. But a lot of people that work for them are NPCs. But again, NPCs will continue doing stuff. It's not like all of a sudden they're not going to be motivated to finish something, for example. So it doesn't matter to them, to the leaders is what they're referring to. They're not aware that essences are missing from the people who are helping them necessarily. Lorrayne, okay, I think you just answered this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do people have to have an essence to make stuff happen, or will the NPC keep up the work that the essence was doing before leaving? And the 25th was commenting, when she finished this part of the question, was saying, yeah. Are we waiting for the NPCs to finish their work? Yeah. Are we swaying the actions of the NPCs through our energy and intent? And this is where the 25th gave the actual answer. Me. Yes, we are. So yes to all of this. Basically, the NPCs will continue doing what they're doing. Now, there are NPCs on the side of the dark, or they were tending towards the dark, who actually have lightened up. And by lightened up is they might have lost motivation to do certain things. We already said, for example, a lot of people that work for the, I'm going to say the three-letter agencies, I can't say the word, they're finding excuses in the United States is what I mean. So a lot of people that work for these three-letter agencies here, they're finding excuses not to do certain things anymore. But that's because we're swaying the energy. We're swaying everything that's happening on the planet. And so in terms of people working on the side of the light or making stuff, good things happen, then yeah, they're being supported. We're supporting them. And so they don't have to have an essence. So yeah, a lot of these people doing these things are NPCs. And this makes sense because, as we know by now, there aren't many essences left on this planet. So inevitably, we're going to be relying on NPCs to do the work that we're intending to see happen. Lorrayne, thank you. Okay. In August, there had been floods in Vegas and Calabria, Italy, Calabria is a region in the south of Italy. You said the ones in the Midwest in July were down to cause food shortages. But what about these? Since there is no food being produced in Vegas, were they engineered? Me. Yeah, I mean, these floods are usually engineered. So yes, they were engineered. In this case, they were not done, well, in Calabria, there is food production. But what we're trying to say is that they don't always have to be caused to cause food shortages. They might just be caused to show that these things happen, to take our focus off of it and say, well, there's no food production in Vegas. Why would it happen? Clearly cannot be engineered. It might just be to show you, first of all, to cause damage, but also to scare people and to show you that, this is normal. This happens. They happen everywhere. But they were doing something in Vegas as well. It's not It wasn't for food production, but there was something going on there that they needed to clear. So who caused that? They're telling me that it was people on the side of the dark, but it wasn't people on the team of the dark. So it's almost like they were trying to clear something or to remove something. But anyway, it wasn't done for food shortages necessarily. In Calabria, yes, they were. Lorrayne, thank you. Why are there purple or unusually colored skies being reported in different places around the world? Some say it's plasma, some think it's aliens. What is the truth? Me. Yeah, so the fact is, now, of course, we have always excuses for certain things. So we say that is just color of the sky, or, this particular light reflection or whatever it is. But there has been a lot of activity, alien ships activity. We know this. And therefore, many times, that's what it is as well. They might not, their ships or the systems that are in the ships, they might not be able to be completely invisible or to leave the atmosphere the way it is. I mean, we still feel them, right? It still affects light reflection and so on. And so, no, sometimes it is alien ships. It's not just plasma or whatever it is. There have been instances when it was alien ships. Lorrayne, thank you. Okay. Was old Hollywood, people like James Dean, Paul Newman, Marlon Brando, Joanne Woodward, Grace Kelly, Katharine Hepburn, Audrey Hepburn, and Marilyn Monroe, just as dark as modern Hollywood? Were these people dark? Me. Yeah, so old Hollywood was just as dark. Hollywood was set up by the dark to do things and to cover up for the things that we know have happened there. And that fueled Hollywood from the beginning. So yes, a lot of these people were, of course, first victims of these things. We know Marilyn Monroe, for example, had a very difficult past. We, of course, don't know the full extent of it, or we're not told the full extent of it. So yes, a lot of these people, even the reason they died young, sometimes they were taken out, and sometimes they just didn't want to be part of whatever they were part of. So yeah, I mean, it's not new. Hollywood did not become dark in our generation. Hollywood has been dark from the very beginning. And the reason I added this question is because I was having a conversation with my boyfriend who was telling me about these documentaries that come out about different stars from the past. And of course, they make him look so wonderful. Which, of course, if there's a documentary coming out, what would they say? But so I wanted to ask. I'm like, oh, is it real? Especially because I also have had, I've liked some of these stars. I wasn't, they've entertained us. That they had this lure about them, and so I wanted to ask. And so, of course, as disappointing as it is, I was not too surprised by the answer. It makes sense that Hollywood would have not been started as a place of light and then somehow changed into what it has been for the past many decades. So, all right, Lorrayne. Okay, was Martin Luther King on the team of the light or the dark, and was his purpose pure? Someone said that he was put in place by the, can't say this word, but it's the ka and bal. Put those two syllables together. By the ka and the ball, and killed by the KKK. And again, this is why I wanted to ask, because I like him personally. I think he's, at least on paper, he's done a lot of great things. So, but I was curious, and this person brought this up, and I'm like, let's find out. Me. So Martin Luther King was in the middle. And of course, to have the impact he had, he came across a lot of the dark. It's just inevitable. He was in politics, and he was a very public figure. And we know it's really hard not to have to deal with the dark when you're trying to change things in the system. We're having the same issue with the White Hats, right? That's what they have to do. And so he was not a light worker for sure, but he was trying to do something good, and he did it. However, he knew how to do it. And when the dark thought that it was enough, he just overstepped, and they just took him out. I was not happy about this. Again, I'm not surprised. Lorrayne, thank you. Me, they were using him. The reason they let it go on as long as they let it go on is because he was beneficial. We already said the dark's very confused about how it goes about things sometimes. They thought it was useful to create this new current where Black people had some rights, because that would now weaken or cause mayhem in society. So they were using him, meaning that they were letting him do this thing because he was useful to them. They thought they could use it. It's the same thing they did with women, right? Now women had rights, etc., and they used their emancipation. Do you see? They're still doing this to this day. They're still marching off of that with the etc. But when it became too uncomfortable, inconvenient, then of course they got rid of Martin Luther King himself. Lorraine, of course they did. Was Gandhi on the team of the light or the dark? Me. Yeah, so now Gandhi again was in the middle. However, Gandhi was more leaning towards the light. And you know this because just in the way that he approached, you can see even at a 3D level, the way that things are approached. Gandhi was very much, and again, he had to deal with a lot of the dark. You don't get to certain levels of power without being approached by the dark, which will even threaten you, will try to corrupt you or whatever the case might be. Will try to tell you, okay, but don't overstep over here or be very careful, whatever the case might be. But what happened with Gandhi is that he wasn't just against a part of society, of his own society. He was against somebody that everybody could see was the enemy. It's like, what's Britain doing here? And not only, but the way he approached it, you can see that it was more of the light. He basically just said, no violence. Of course, we're not saying that Martin Luther King was saying to his people to be violent, but he took it more as a, you can see the difference in style, I guess is what we're trying to say. Martin Luther King was more of acting more like a politician in that sense, a public figure doing what he was doing, his meetings, whatever it is. Whereas Gandhi had more of an approach to where if we just stop, if we just put no resistance, then it's going to dissolve. It's just going to have to desist. It's the same lesson we're learned, or Claire learned when she ran into that person who tried to rattle her in the car, where if you don't put up any resistance, the other party cannot sustain the reality by themselves. And so this is what's happened. That's why Gandhi was successful in getting the British Empire out, because he used more of a non-resistant approach. He just said, this reality is no longer, which is what we're doing right now with the recall of this thing. We're not focusing on people being punished or whatever the case might be. We're just focused on saying this reality is finished. We don't want to see this anymore. And this is what's going to happen. That's why it's just going to up and leave. And to be clear, we're not saying that Gandhi is better than Martin Luther King. One is not better than the other. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.